Well, I believe the Evening Standard hustings, which was televised live on the television station London Live and very widely reported, with a packed attendance of 750 people, others couldn't get in, changed everything in the London mayoral race. It had been the tactic, particularly of the Labour candidate Sadiq Khan, to pretend that I wasn't in this election. And without the kind of budget that the big parties have, without the party machine, it was difficult for me to, as it were, break out from anonymity. But my experience is that invariably when people know that I'm in this race, they either automatically declare their support for me, or at the very least indicate that they are prepared to consider voting for me. So my number one tactic is to let people know that I'm actually a candidate in the race. And I think the hustings was a major breakthrough in that regard. And there are others coming up. There are other big hustings across London and even in the media, on LBC, on BBC London, and so on. And I think that people know that I've certainly got the measure of Sadiq Khan. I think people know that he's second, third, maybe even fourth best candidate in this race, but that's only truly exposed when he's up against me, because I've got much more experience than him, and indeed more experience than all the other candidates put together. I've been elected to Parliament 6 times in 2 countries and sat there for almost 30 years, and I was prominent in politics even before I entered the House of Commons almost 30 years ago. So I feel that my task is to up my profile as a mayoral candidate. There are hundreds of thousands of people in London that support the politics that I represent and the way I do business, but many of them don't yet know that I'm a candidate. But there's more than 90 days to go at the time of speaking. I'm about to bring my heavy electoral artillery onto the field, my traditional open-top double-decker bus with big, powerful stadium-style speakers. And so over the next few weeks, frankly, there won't be many left in London who don't know that I'm standing. And everyone in London is going to get a booklet sent by the authority. You have to pay £10,000 to get in that book, and I'm paying it. And that booklet will go to every single household in London with my picture and my platform, what I'm standing for in the mayoral election race. That too is a piece of heavy artillery. So it's getting closer. I'm already the 3rd favourite at the bookmakers, miles ahead of all the other minor candidates, and closing on the big 2. The big 2 are not that big. Zach Goldsmith is very tall, but as a political figure, he's not that big. And Sadiq Khan, well, about whom least said, the better. I'm the real Labour man in this race, Labour with a small L. I spent decades in the Labour Party and was expelled by Tony Blair because of my role as a leader of the anti-war movement. And everything I said in that movement turned out to be correct. And everything that Mr. Blair said turned out to be false, except where it was a deliberate falsehood. And my film, which is coming out before the mayoral elections, The Killings of Tony Blair, that's going to make quite a splash too, I can promise you. So, between now and May the 5th, the task is to reach as many people in London as possible, to tell them I'm standing, and to tell them what I'm standing on, what I'm standing for. And Sadiq Khan was in a cold sweat last night. I mean, literally a cold sweat. He was tense, anxious, nervous, didn't engage with me, didn't even respond to the criticisms I made of him, because there isn't much of a response that can be mustered. I'm the candidate in this election that is close to Jeremy Corbyn, with whom I sat for nearly 30 years in Parliament. I represent the ideas that Corbyn won the Labour leadership election on, and Khan is opposed to virtually every single one of those ideas, every single one of those values. And Khan is a part of the coup against Corbyn, and everybody knows it. He doesn't make any effort to conceal it. And if he were to be elected mayor in May, the very first thing he would do is demand the resignation of Jeremy Corbyn as leader. Probably privately for the first few days, but increasingly publicly. That's their game. They intend to overthrow Jeremy Corbyn very quickly after the elections in May. I, on the other hand, if I'm the mayor, I'll strengthen Corbyn's hand very considerably, because I will have won an election on exactly the same kind of policies that he won the Labour leadership elections on. So on all the issues, transport, crime, policing, development, poverty, housing, above all, the social cleansing of London, of ordinary working people on average or even below average earnings, being driven out of the city, right to the edge and then off the edge. On these issues, I'm the person who is proposing real Labour politics as an answer to those crises. You can go to my website and read about them all, Galloway 2016.London. You can find everything I'm saying about all of these issues there. And we're coming to a place near you, either on top of an open-top bus or to a full dress meeting. I hope you'll engage with us. I'm George Galloway. I'm standing for Mayor of London.